Okay, so good morning, everybody. Just wanted to get that out there. So we want to give you a little bit of a definition of a glow up. You know, in this kind of time, people being quarantined, there's a lot of trend for change and transformation, basically a glow up. So a glow up, the etymology comes from glow up. It's kind of modeled after grow up. So we're kind of growing up the system. So it's a complete transformation of a physical appearance which makes someone or something look more attractive. And in this case, it's something. So while glow up usually applies to the physical appearance, the HCM glow up is also going to apply to different system functionality. The way the user experiences CloudSuite HCM, that's definitely a glow up from Lawson S3. And as a verb, it's to transform oneself in a significant way, or in this case, to transform a system in a significant way.
Yeah, so we kind of modeled our presentation on a lot of those lists that you see when you're like, clickbait, that looks really interesting. I've got to see what they're going to show us next. And then you're going to have to like hit a next button and you get some pop-ups and some ads. You know, lately in quarantine, I've been going through a lot of those fun articles and lists and stuff. So it's kind of top of mind. So that's what you're going to see today. We're going to give you the 15 most impressive glow-ups in the HCM system for all those who need a good system transformation right about now. You guys will understand these things.
Okay. So the first one we have is, you know, if you're the kind of person that doesn't like going to 5 different screens to get all the information for one employee, which I personally don't. The resource record is a great view. On the resource record, you don't have to drill around on HR like you do on HR 11 for employee data. You just click on the tabs. So it gives you all these tabs, work assignments, pay information, so you can go straight to pay information tab, look at deductions, look at W-4 information. Within the resource record, you can create checklists and assign them directly from the resource profile. You can create goals directly from the resource profile. You don't have to go to another screen. In the talent profile tab, you can quickly view certification, skills, employment history, education. You could put in licensure in there if you don't have another way to record that. I know we have a couple of clients that are using it for, you know, licensure. And then you also have a way to look at benefits. And what am I forgetting here? There's so much more you can do. And then all their personal information. So you have your phone numbers, any emergency contacts, dates of service, compensation. I really like the work assignments because once you go into the work assignments, you can see everything on there. And what's nice too about this is that you're just not limited to that work assignment. We're not doing a demo right now, but you kind of click on a little folder and then go to the work assignments and then see even more expanded information on that work assignment, not maybe just for that individual, but for that position itself. There's also fit analysis. So if you are using this, and I'm not sure if Melissa might have to correct me on this, you might have to use it with talent management, but the fit analysis will let you know, like if you're looking for somebody to put on a project, are they a good fit for this project? So I think that's a great tool, particularly when you're trying to assign tasks to people.
Yeah, Dawn, so I'll jump in there because in fact, in the next hour, shameless plug, but you guys are probably around anyway, Jonathan and I are going to be doing a presentation on kind of your Go Live 1 and what you can really get out of, you know, the core that's different. So it's very similar. It takes off from this kind of like our foundation, and there we'll really get into that. So we'll talk through the fit analysis, and it is core functionality using your qualifications and competencies. So stay tuned.
So that's basically a good view of the resource profile. It's everything you need is there. You know, I remember working in S3, and sometimes you're like, okay, where is that work history now? Well, you can find it here easily. It's just a tab. It's not a drill around.
Yeah, in the old days, or nowadays, if you're on S3, you know you usually have to have about 6 or 7 tabs open with all of the screens that you need. And this is just a really nice, easy way to get to everything. And you notice it's called a resource record and not an employee record. And that is because you can track any type of resource you have: contractors, retirees, volunteers.
Oops.
Take it in your system.
Oops, sorry, I thought you froze up there for a minute. So
Yeah, sorry. I think we're both going to be freezing up a little bit.
yeah.
So yeah, you'll be able to get them into the system. And if you guys have any questions, I know you guys are on mute and there's a chat there. So if you have any questions or you want to kind of stop and ask something else, since this isn't a live demo and we just have screenshots, please put something in the chat. We're keeping an eye on it, and it can be as interactive as we can make this with you guys on being on mute. Okay. So next up. Next up is your supervisory structure. So this is for like those of you that really dislike a system that only allows an employee to have just one manager. You know, we're stuck with manager self-service, just looking at the primary work assignment and the organization's work. A lot of organizations need different people to see an employee and action on an employee. So we did, if you were listening to the live main stage, you know, Lee was kind of talking about the idea of being able to not take what you have today and put it into the system, because there's a lot of flexibility. You don't want to take your org structure as you have it today because you have to match your GL accounts. You can really, you know, reflect what your organization looks like. Same with your supervisory structure. So you can create that hierarchy that you need to report on to understand who the true direct supervisor is, but you can also give roles, and this is really around security and building out security roles, and we'll go over that in a couple of slides. But you're able to give somebody, in some of the examples we have here, and there are a ton of other examples, are, you know, you've got a that might be shift, and they will have a different manager depending on what, or which, you know, days they work. Those people are equal managers for that employee when, you know, when they're working. It's not like one is primary and the other is not. Same thing with your time approver. Time approvers are rarely managers of people, but they need to manage everybody's time sheets, time cards, everything that has been put in. So they're able to have a managerial type of role or supervisory role. Performance appraisers. Sometimes you've got a couple of people managing projects that your employee is working on, and you can't necessarily do the appraisal because they didn't really, that happens with me. I've got, you know, 20 consultants on the team, but I don't work directly with any of them on any of their projects. So I really lean on my project managers and the other team to understand how these consultants are doing on their projects. So I wouldn't be able to do a performance appraisal. I'd need that help from, you know, the project manager that they worked on for the, you know, the whole year. And then something like a floor supervisor or a team lead. You've got, you know, people that report to a lot of different people, but yet one person is really the administrative manager for them. They're not going to be, you know, doing the employee relations for them, but they're the ones that, you know, put in the transactions. A lot of times we see this with executive assistants doing this for executives, because they're not in there approving workflows or triggering terminations. So you have that flexibility with the system to be able, and even if you're in the midst of your implementation, you know, I really want you to start thinking about these things for your planning for moving to the system. You know, what are the different ways we need people to interact with our employees? So you can have that kind of sketched out before you go into your design sessions. Okay, go into PA50 and add a field, just any changes to that field. So you've got full audit logs here. No matter what field it is in the system, it will be tracked. You are able to see who did the change. So it's not like a random, like code generated, whatever we see in S3 that we have to go and try and ask somebody in IT to tell us who that actor or who that user is. You'll see their username, as you can see here, like there's Ariana Silva did one. I'm TRN Manual, Helen Manual, before we changed my name in the system. So you are able to see that. And if you see, look on the right there, you can see there's a compare log. So somebody may have changed their pay rate, and you want to see what their pay rate was before. And you don't want to have to open everything in a drill around that says pay rate to see which, what their pay rates were. You're able to go through and check mark, and you can see here how I've check marked the update address, because I want to see where they lived before they changed their address for tax purposes. And now I can see here, the date it was changed, the update address, and then actually this was my name change that happened. So we changed me from Helen to Melissa, and I could see the before and after. It makes it very easy for you to both view history and report on history, which we will touch on reporting in a second. So I won't spoil that for Dawn. And I don't see her.
Oh, I'm here. Uh-oh.
Okay, I don't see your face. Okay, good.
I can
hear you now.
I'm here. Okay, so reporting. So when you're doing reporting, so if you're trying to find a process level, a department, processing group, employee group, you can't find those filters on the report that you need to run in S3. Well, Global HR has kind of got you covered in that. So you had some limitations in S3. And if you're feeling really confined with that functionality and you only have those 200 and 300 series standard reports, and then you have the occasionally, and I like to call it the quirky Microsoft add-in, GHR can expand that reporting for you. So you have some regulatory reporting. So for the EEO and the vets, it's still there, but the affirmative action reports have been expanded. Oh, I'm not sure if Melissa was going to jump in there, but and then one of the features that I really like in GHR is the ability to configure views for the organization. So unfortunately, we don't have a demo to show you this, but when you would go to something like a resources page to view all your resources, you may have their name, their first or last name, maybe their location, and maybe their work assignment, and that's the view that you have. Well, that page can be configured to bring in maybe start dates, adjusted start dates, a pay rate. So everybody in the organization can view that with a configuration. Now, if you want to really drill down and really personalize it, there is a thing called personalizations to do reporting on. And you could personalize that page just for the employee that's looking at it. So the employee can go in and say, you know what, I need to bring in some data and pull a report. So they can personalize that page, bring in a few more columns. Looks like we might have lost Melissa, but I'll keep talking. And so they can personalize that page, create a CSV, and pull the report. And, like, voila, you have a custom report. So bear with me 1 minute and let me get our presentation back up.
Dawn.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah.
Is logging out and logging back in. So
okay,
give her a couple of minutes, or you can share your screen.
I'll keep talking.
She's back now.
Okay.
I'm here. I thought it was you that was going out, but no, it was me. It's not you, it's me.
There it is. Okay, so I'll keep talking. So with the configurations and personalizations, you can create views and pull reports. And so you almost have these custom ad hoc reports that you can do just by throwing in a few more columns, personalizing that page. And you can personalize it as many ways as you want, take columns out, put columns in. So that's one of my favorite things to do. It makes it so easy to pull data. And then some of the other things that you can create, well, there's burst analytics. And I might need Melissa to jump in a little bit with me on the burst, but you can create a multitude of reports and they're published to dashboards, and they are, I believe a lot of it's just out of the box reports that they can do, and they can be updated. I believe you can set them to update, on a nightly basis, on a weekly basis, and you'll always have current information. So I don't know if you wanted to add to the burst.
Yeah, and you actually don't even have to create them. So there are close to 300 delivered HCM analytics, and Aaron and Bo are doing a sandbox session. So if you have time today, pop by with them, and you can let them know you want to see some of the analytics. But yes, they are pretty much what general HR departments and talent management departments use. So with the, out of the box GHR licensing, you do get those analytics, dashboards, if you needed to change anything. So say you needed to kind of change a filter or add a field, that is going to be different licensing. So when you kind of hear about a visualizer or enterprise licensing, that's what that 280 plus reports is will get you a lot. So I highly encourage any of you that don't know too much about it to learn more about it. This did come out with the HCM or the CloudSuite HCM suite, I want to say maybe about October of last year, fall of last year. They weren't out summer. So if you haven't looked in the last, 8 months or so at it, it's definitely time to take a look at it.
So just to kind of close up the reporting, Global HR just gives you a lot more functionality in the way of reporting and a lot more just ease rather than having to pull. You also have the one thing that I did not comment on, and I'm not sure if I actually threw it in my list, is you do have Spreadsheet Designer, which is kind of similar to add-ins, but the functionality of it is so much nicer. And I will tell you, I've been using it nonstop crazy this week. So I love Spreadsheet Designer. It's one of my favorite things to pull queries, to upload data. But as far as reporting, you could pull a query and you can clean up your report. But again, you have a lot of options in reporting in Global HR.
Okay, security differences. So when you know templates are better than building security from scratch, all human resources have about the same roles. So why do we have to do it from scratch like we do with LS security? So I've kind of put a list. There are more roles, but these are the interesting ones that you will be using most likely in your Go Live 1. And there's some more that are more technical behind the scenes. I didn't put those in, but you can see here, it's very comprehensive. And when you do, I hope I'm not freezing. When you do have changes, if somebody doesn't do what a typical benefits administrator does, it's very easy to use the configuration console tool to be able to make an update to that standard template. So I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I just want to let you guys know that this is the way of landmark. So for financials, supply chain, and HCM, you're going to have these delivered roles, and until you move to all of them, you will have to be maintaining some LS security for your payroll and your financials, and then your landmark security for your HCM. Delivered workflows. So this too, because building IPA workflows doesn't come naturally to you. So we had to put workflows behind, and we in the general, oh man, I got a pop-up video. Wait, sorry. This was me being like, that annoys you when it pops up and you're trying to get through an article. Anyhow, so when you do any kind of manager self-service, benefits open enrollment, almost anything transactional from S3, you generally want to have some workflows behind it for auditing and for approvals, and you had to build those yourself. Or bring somebody in to build those for you. And then lo and behold, 3 or 4 years ago, they changed it from Process Flow Designer to IPA, and now you had to go and convert everything to be able to move up to your version 10 software. And it's not easy to get up to speed on these things. So again, just like those security templates, Info recognizes that there are specific things that every organization does. Everybody does a termination. Everybody does a name change. And they built in flows behind all of those actions, delivered actions. So you don't have to go to PA50 and create the action and then create a workflow behind that action. And then if you add it or remove a field, you're going to have to change your workflow. Well, that would still happen. But you have delivered actions with the delivered workflow behind there. Again, there's a ton more that come out, but I just put a sampling of the interesting ones that you most likely have today if you do have manager self-service on, and if you do have employee self-service on. And you can, I won't read those out to you. Starting point for you, they have most of approval. So if you need more levels, you just turn them on and say, okay, I want direct supervisor plus indirect. Now, if you need a different type of approver, one that is not in the hierarchy chain, that is when you'll take these flows and you'll configure, as we, in the Infor vernacular, instead of customizations now, it's all configurations, because you'll be using the configuration console tool or the IPA tool to configure it.
Okay, employee space. So in GHR, it's called employee space. I think if you're in S3 right now, you're used to it being called employee self-service. And this has had a major glow up. And you can just see, we have a clip there of what the dashboard looks like. So employee self-service, it was functional, but it wasn't pretty, right? And everybody likes a pretty little dashboard to kind of click on, colors. You didn't really have that employee self-service. So you do have that in employee space. And it's nice because you have everything laid out for you, and it gives you a lot more functionality beyond just basic personal information changes like addresses and phone numbers, maybe changing your tax information. We still have benefits. You can apply for your benefits, maybe do a life event, but employee space gives you a lot more, and it looks better. So you can request goals and development activities. So employees can request goals and development activities through the employee space, and it'll be routed to their managers. They can specify due dates, they can assign weighting to goals, they can track progress, and then they can record expected results, and they can send this all over to their manager for approval. And these goals can be aligned with the organizational goals. Individual development plans can be made for employees, and they can consist of historical goals, personal development activities, checklists. Employees can register for sessions and classes for their IDPs, and as well as LMS. But LMS is not needed if you want to use these class features. You can do them straight from here and create classes, and they're just links. So the employee space has also been configured to allow employees access to the organization's internal career site and apply for positions. They can upload documents. They can monitor their application status. They can withdraw applications, review it, accept it, decline offers. So you can see it's got a lot more to it than just the regular employee self-service. And then they can also create self-appraisals and be assigned peer appraisals if that's something that your organization does. And then after performance reviews, so the employee has a performance review, and afterwards they have the ability to view any notes that the manager has taken and shared with them regarding their appraisal. And then they can also create their own notes on the appraisal process. And there's a tab below, and I don't even think you see it. You may not see it in this clip because there's more on that left-hand side of that little black space. There's a lot more in there. I just couldn't get it all to fit, but there's an actual notes tab. So they can create notes not only for performance appraisals, but they may want to, timestamp and date a note for maybe something that they have to complete, a task. Maybe they can take notes if they have like a quick meeting. They can pull up their notes, take a note. They have a time and date stamped, and then they can refer back to it. And it gives them a list of all their notes that they take to refer back to. So it's kind of that thing, and we're going to get to it on a slide, but it's kind of like you don't need pen and paper all the time. And then employees can be assigned tasks, and they can accept tasks or choose tasks to complete from their transition management queued items. They can take notes to track their progress on them, and then they can mark the task as complete so their manager can see that, oh, we've completed this task, we're good to go. And then another added feature is the ability for employees to assist health and safety groups. They can submit witness accounts of health and safety occurrences, and they can be reviewed and considered as incidents. And we'll go a little bit more into health and safety, but it's great because it's an easy tool for them to go, oh, you know what, there's a big spill on the floor in the break room. Want to make sure nobody, slips and falls, which creates a whole nother incident. So they can go in there and record these incidences, and they can be routed to the appropriate person. But there's so much functionality, and I unfortunately there's not a demo because I'd love to go in and be able to demo this for everybody, but we don't have time for that right now. And I'm not sure I don't believe we have one of the employee space, but if you have any questions on that, we'll be able to answer those for you.
Yeah.
So from the employee space, I don't know if Melissa had anything to add to the employee space, but I like to give employees the power to do things on their own, especially when benefits are concerned. And that's something that they can do here. They can monitor their benefits, submit life events. So there's so much functionality in the employee space.
Hey.
So that will bring us to the manager self-service. So when you thought that managers could do so much more in a portal, and they can. So some of the things that they can do, and you can just see the dashboard here. They have a lot of new features. The manager space, again, it's a little bit clunky in S3. And you have a dashboard here, and it's a great dashboard, and you have these little widgets that you can add to your dashboard. So you can have an employee's profile come up. If you look on the left-hand side, I'm sorry, I'm looking up. I've got two screens going. So if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see maybe your entire staff that's assigned to you. And then you can click on one of those profiles, and then you can see a little widget about their profile. And then you can click in there, and you can find so much more about your employee. So you can look at fit analysis metrics. You can update and validate any direct reports qualifications from the manager space. You can look at an absence chart to see requests and approvals for time off of all your direct reports, and so you can approve their time. You can set goals and action plans for employees in your reporting chain. You can review compensation and award any pay raises if that's a policy that you have, that managers can award pay raises or request pay raises. You can create and manage performance appraisals. You can maintain health components and safety incidents. So again, that's something we'll kind of get a little bit more into. But you can, if somebody had to go for, let's say they need to do a drug test, you can assign it from here. And then you can assign and manage mentors if you're using the mentor space. So it gives you a lot of ideas. You could set up the dashboard the way you want to see it on a daily basis. So you can see, bar charts. What else do we have in there? Sorry, I gotta move my screen a little bit. You have bar charts, your profile, qualifications fit. You could take notes, so you have notes. I believe, Melissa left a note for Mr. Wilson, who looks a lot like Harry Styles. So that's a little note for them, but what a great employee they were. So that's some of the functionality of the manager space.
And another thing, we didn't hit on it in reporting, but you are able to publish reports to managers now in the manager self-service manager space area. You kind of everything that normally you do the big data dump, then you start filtering and you start doing some VLOOKUPs to put some other fields on there, and then you create like one report for each manager or leader of an organization and give it to them with their information. You're able to create one report now, publish it out, and see what they have access to in security. So your managers would see for their direct line underneath them all the employee information. If they're not able, because that manager role doesn't have security to see the pay rate, they wouldn't see the pay rate if that pay rate was in that report. So that's something that's really powerful and really efficient. And we didn't have an S3 where, you know, it sits there and the screenshot it doesn't show the main page, but there is a drop down that'll say my reports, and then any report that has been shared with them will be there. And again, when they pull it up, it will be updated. It's, you know, it's if you think about like your Crystal or any other type of tool that as soon as you open it up, it brings up the latest data. That's what that's going to be.
So next on our list is we're going to talk a little bit about employee relations. So source of pain for everybody. A lot of employee relations are done on paper or they're done in PA-59. You never want to be looking around for a file. So this is a great clearinghouse to store grievances, create grievances. With PA-59, you may have had some action dates, you put some types in, maybe have a status, who it's reported by, report an outcome, and maybe some steps, but GHR will give you a more expanded view. So you can create a calendar for the organization. If policies and grievances, you use the work days to determine responses at each step. So if you have a timeline that you have to adhere to, like by the time when you get the grievance, you have 5 days to respond. You can set that up. You can set up all your response times. You have categories that you can use to group together similar types of items. You know, for example, you might create an attendance category that includes issues of being late, absent, leaving early, or other attendance-related items. And categories can be used for reporting, and they're optional, but they can be used for reporting. So that's a great tool, is that you can use these for reporting. You can see by location how many people are absent. You could see by maybe position. If you have maybe a position like bus operators, and you want to look at their absences and their lates and their, you know, late clock-ins, you can see all of that, and you can pull reports using those categories. Sources can be sources can be optionally used on the notes by the manager or generalist, and they can specify where that note came from. So some examples are manager observations, maybe the time system, or witness reports. You can create documents or email templates to use for coaching, discipline, or grievances. A bank of these already set up. They can go in and they can just be filled out. So it's very easy to create these for managers. And then having those templates as well is consistency. And the one thing that I always remembered in my former life as a generalist and doing a lot of disciplinary action and a lot of labor relations is that you really want to be consistent. So you'll have consistency across the board in your organization for how these disciplinary actions, coachings, or grievances look. And then when an employee commits an infraction, you know, you have one option as a manager, generalist, or employee to create a note about the incident. And the note can be that record of information about how the incident happened, and it can include date, type, comments. Both the employee and manager can create notes about the incident. However, the employee cannot see the same information as the manager. So if the manager wanted to say something that included the employee, that will be hidden from view for them. And then the coaching tool is a great document as a meeting between a manager and employee. So you can use this, pull up the coaching tool. And it's usually used to address employee behavior before it becomes an issue. So if you're not using these type of things now, if you have maybe a smaller organization and you kind of just do your disciplinary and grievance on the fly, which, you know, some organizations do that, you know, and I'll give you an example. You know, my sister owns a restaurant. It's a small restaurant. She has about 30 employees. So she doesn't have a lot of issues, but when she does, she doesn't really have a set way to do them. So she's always looking for if she had a tool like this, she would have something that would be consistent, she can use, and it uses the same on everybody. And then a manager can use that coaching to help prepare for discussions with the employee and to document the discussions. So all of these coaching tools are a great way to make sure that you have documentation. So if the incident happens again, you can build upon that. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I'm leaving out. We have coaching. Oh, you can create behaviors and desired behaviors. And then you can create consequences as well. So you have a lot of different tools at the manager has a lot of different tools at their fingertips to help them and guide them through the disciplinary and grievance processes. I think we're moving on.
Okay. And yeah, all the things we're hitting today, am I coming through? Let's see.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. All the things we're hitting today are core Global HR, CloudSuite HCM functionality. So that we're not hitting the talent management modules that are kind of extra. We want to just kind of go through what did you have in your S3 system today and what does it translate to in the new system. So this was your PA 59 screen that you weren't able to do too much with. You know, and now you can still convert all of what you have into the new system and then build upon it. So you won't lose any of that history that you have today. Okay. Next up is Occ Health. So again, for those of you that didn't even know PA 90 existed, because I go and do a lot for tracking health, occupational health components, and incidents, kind of some of the stuff that Dawn was talking about before. So if you use PA 90, awesome, because you're trying to get as much information about your employees in your Lawson system as you can. If you're not, if you're using a third party or you're using some sort of database, spreadsheet, kind of paper, whatever, you can use that. And then when you move to GHR, if you're in the midst of moving to GHR, you know, you do have an occupational health module, again, core functionality, and you are, and it's blown out a lot more than your PA 90. So you can see there, those are the only types of things on PA 90 that you were able to track. And those were both set up for health or safety. You were using the same screens depending on what kind of issue you wanted, issue or component you wanted to track. And now on the Occ Health side, you know, you really are able to bring in a lot more information. Employees and know if they need, if it's expired, anything that they need, tuberculosis tests. I know with school systems, there's a few tests that anybody that is going to go on campus needs to have before they go on. So you're able to track this, you're able to notify, and you're able to report very easily from there. There is reporting, regulatory reporting that is part of this. So if you do need to create those reports for the state or whatever it may be, there's a starting point for you with some of the CUBE reporting that is built in there. I'm going to go to next because it's kind of hand in hand. And Dawn, you want to talk a little bit about safety management?
Sure. You want to pop up our little screen. So we're guessing you're tracking safety incidents in a TPA or a spreadsheet possibly. So let's see if you could hit the button for me. Why though? When you can have everything that GHR offers in their safety management tool. So you can create safety incidents, near misses, you can record observations, you can review these, we can review the statuses of the safety incidents and the near misses, and you can see if they're active or completed. You can recognize and record safe behaviors, which, you know, a lot of things aren't recognized. You don't usually do that with a TPA. I've never seen it with a TPA, that they have the safe behaviors. They may give you a list of safe behaviors, but here you can recognize and record some safe behaviors. And then you can review safety profiles of each individual employee, which is nice. So if you have somebody that you have policy on safety violations, let's say if they have 3 occurrences, then they either, you know, whatever the policy is, you know, they might get fired if it's really bad, or it might just be a warning or, you know, a final warning, however your policy is. So you can view these safety profiles. You'll know if you go in, somebody has an occurrence, you can look, oh, they've got 2 other occurrences. You know, it's time that we do maybe a notice of discharge. Something I know that might be extreme, but depending on what the safety incident, it could be that extreme. And then you have reporting and tracking tools. So you have some expanded reporting that besides the OSHA logs, it includes incidents reporting and days without incidents reporting. So those reports would be great. Those are great things to have and tools to have, especially if you have maybe managers in a shop and they pull up their manager dashboard, and then they can have, that could be part of one of the reports that you send out. So like Melissa had added to the manager space, that's something that you could publish there. And then you have, what else is nice is that you have incident related cost reports, because every incident, every safety violation, any injury, that's a cost. So you can see those reports, you can track those, and you can create them. And then you also have some analysis tools. So you have analysis tools for incidents and then employee-related incidents. And then you also have causal analysis, which reports causal analysis, and that can assist you in pinpointing recurring causes. So if you have some type of recurring cause, you can address those causes, and they may not be just a recurring cause to a certain location. It might be across all locations. So that's one of the things that the analysis that can do, which is really great. You can look at the analysis by location. You can do it by recurrence. You can do it by an incident type, maybe reported date lag, and then you can look at any on-time follow-ups. So it has a lot of analysis tools. And then you can also analyze and reported safe behaviors. Again, you have the safe behaviors. And then in addition to all of these tools that safety management gives you, you can have task and incident templates you can create. And then you can create email templates and alerts and notifications to be sent out. So it has so much more to it than nothing or just your TPA. And then you have a little bit more control over it rather than having it in TPA. And then spreadsheets, well, we just know spreadsheets that they don't always get updated. They don't always get kept up with. And here you have a tool, it's right there in front of you, and it's with all your resource records. It's with your health and safety, it's with your health. Your safety goes hand in hand, so.
Okay, moving along, we got about 7 more minutes, and we've just got
we gotta hurry up.
three more awesome glow ups. So
I will talk fast.
Because some of this is, this is a good one here.
So medical leave tracking. Okay, so what I really like about medical leave tracking is that normally you would have LP51 and you have to use it hand in hand with your absence management in S3, but in GHR, the leave of absence you can use without having the absence management enabled. So that is one of the great things. So here you can have an employee request a leave of absence in their employee space. The manager can approve it, and then it can be routed to human resources for administration on it. Some of the great things that you could do with this just out of the box without having absence management. The approval and denial statuses, you can track those. You can upload documents. You can send emails to employees. If they're approved, you need more information. Anything that you need to send to the employee to approve or deny their status. And then restore. So this is a great tool. I believe that had some functionality in S3, but the restore will allow the FMLA for a rolling 12-month entitlement. So when an employee uses leaves and then returns to work, that amount of leave can be automatically restored to their entitlement bank when the restore FML leave is run. And the restored hours will show as pending until any action is taken on them. And then you can also, the last thing I'm going to add, you can also generate DLL forms for FMLA when the leave of absences record is created. Template forms are going to be supplied via delivered content. Okay. That one kind of fast. I could probably talk about it for hours.
I know. We are working on getting just, an FMLA or leave management webinar kind of put together because it's huge. It's the visibility and management and administration is difficult. And this is not by any means easy to set up, but at least there's more functionality in the system to be able to use. So it's not just, turn it on and there you go. So next up is proxy for managers. So if you get annoyed by putting a manager's ID in HR07 when somebody goes out and then putting a calendar reminder to remember when they come back and go back to HR07 and put the right person, or maybe the right person's never there because it's an executive administrative person. So then your hierarchy is out of not valid. now we've got an easy tool to turn on proxy. Managers are able to define who they want to be able to give different proxies to. So it's not just as a direct manager, it's also, again, does somebody need to approve my workflows? There's another role for that. Does somebody need to approve time if time is coming through the system, or leaves? Somebody wants to put in PTO request. So I, as a manager, can define maybe 3 different managers I might want to become my proxy, because today I'm running 4 sessions, so I don't have time to be doing any managerial stuff. So maybe just for today, I want to just turn it on. And so I'm able to set up those managers. They do have to be my colleague level or above. I cannot assign anything to my direct reports. And I go into my manager self-service. I click on proxy, and I've got Sarah, who's proctoring here with us. Sarah is going to be my proxy, and I choose the process server for her because I need somebody to do my approvals while I'm out. So now when she goes in, she will see that, or I actually selected her. So sorry, I did this backward. I'm going to be Sarah's proxy while she's out. So I selected process server, and I'm going to be approving all of her workflow while she is proctoring all these view sessions all day long. We don't want anything to, any time sensitive stuff to not go through. And then when I'm done, I just go back, and I'm going to go back into my manager role. This gives me all the roles I could jump back in from that proxy. Talked about it earlier with the audit log. Anything I do in Sarah's absence will show in the audit log, and it will literally say, Melissa Olson, proxy for Sarah Tisdale on the audit log. Okay, and notes. Well, you did touch on this a bit earlier.
We talked about, I think I talked about it in almost everything I talked about. So, so I'm going to add some to this. When Post-it notes, spiral notebooks won't do, and you can't find a pen. This is a great tool. It is on so many different processes, so managers can take notes on employees from a list view or a calendar view. You can take notes within your employee relations documentation. Performance and goals have notes to help during the appraisal process. And then the notes, you can mark them as public or private. And I would say if you're going to use notes, really be careful how you mark these. You don't want to make something public that obviously needs to be private. So I would say take some care when you're doing it and make sure that you mark them correctly. But that's about it about notes. We went on, we did a lot about notes within all the manager space and employee space, safety. So
out, you do need to make sure to put some sort of
guardrails
to private notes. Employee won't see them, but HR will always have access to those notes.